this is the stuff that we're lucky enough to be able to do. You know, we look at colours of squid jigs. As they come onto the market, they're generically coloured and shaped to fish that come from Japan or Thailand or China or Taiwan. But none of those fish live here. So we're sort of going to wonder what's going to be more productive for us. Is it going to be jigs that look like the fish that live in our waters, or is it going to be fish that live in Japan and Taiwan? So, as I said at the start, we've been lucky enough with the guys from Gangcraft have allowed us to go into their factory, take over. They've given us a designer, do what you like. You know, we've spent a week over there just mucking around and making stuff. A lot of it fails, but a lot of it really works. So we've based our Australian-only jigs on Australian-only species. Things like your King George whitings, your weed whiting, your red mullets, your prawns, squid, for example, slimies. Everyone's seen a yakka before, yeah? So it's all on fish that we have here that our squid would naturally eat in our natural environment. So that's one thing we've been fortunate enough to do. And yeah, this stuff is already here. I was meant to have another 7 colours there to show you that we did in February, but I haven't got the physical samples yet, so you can't see them. Otherwise you would have been the first people in Australia to see them. So that's what's to come in Australia. There is going to be more stuff designed just for us here. It's not available anywhere else in the world, so the folks in Japan can't even get access to them. If they want them, they've got to buy them from here. And yeah, it's pretty cool that we've been able to do stuff just for Australia without having to worry about what the rest of the world's doing. So for a company to spend the time and the money and the resources on a market that's only 0.3% of the world share, I reckon that's pretty awesome. So the other stuff I'm going to quickly talk about is a company called Gosen, who make line. They make braid, fluorocarbon, monofilament, etc., etc., etc. It's not a company where they say it's made in Japan, but it comes out of China. I've got photos I can show you of the factory in Japan. I've stood there and watched the braid be made. To make a spool of the Gosen Egi braid, the whole 150 metre spool takes about a day just to make one spool off one machine. If I buy a line out of China, it takes about 10 minutes to make a spool of line. Because it's not braided, it's twisted. So have a good look at your lines. I love Gosen, and I used it a long time before they even came on board and supported us. It's only really been available in Australia for about 3 years, but I like it and it works really well for me. It's lighter, it's smaller, it's thinner, and it's strong as shit. So other than that, that's me. So if you've got any questions, please ask. Cool, let's go. Oh, you got me, cheers.
Going right back to the beginning, you said they breed at 17 degrees. Is that above 17 or exactly
at 17 degrees? So when it hits 17 degrees, normally as it approaches 17 degrees, they start preparing to spawn. Some of the research we found out when we were tagging squid is that squid do return to their place of birth to spawn. So if they're born on one particular part of reef, when they come back to spawn, they come back home to the same place, which is how they manage to all congregate and then have a productive spawn. When the water approaches 17 degrees, when they get to that age, they'll start to congregate. When it hits 17 degrees, bang, that's like Viagra, and they all just turn on and start spawning.
What about the northern waters?
No, that's on the northern calamari. Yeah. It's actually closer to 22 degrees. Okay, so again, and it's more stable across that. Yep. But on the southern calamari and the Arrows, it is 17 degrees.
Okay. Up at Coral Bay, that would be a northern calamari.
Give me a hint where Coral Bay.
Exmouth.
Oh yes, Exmouth, back in England, all through there. That's all northern calamari.
Same as the Japanese.
Exactly the same fish. Yep. And it's funny too. We actually found some squid in Japan that had the same genes of a fish that we've caught in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So that's how far they do travel. So those same fish that were born and genetic samples are taken from that same family in Gulf of Carpentaria were caught just outside Kinko University in Japan. So yeah, they do travel a lot.
So an individual squid will travel?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, but generally they don't travel on their own. They can't feel or smell, they can only see, so everyone wants to eat them. So they'll travel in groups normally to protect themselves, but yeah.
Can they taste like downstream if you...
Nah.
No?
Nah. Stick your tongue out. Can you taste my deodorant? How's my breath from over there? Very similar to our tongue. They need to make contact to be able to associate the taste. Now, I did tell a half lie at the start when I said squid don't have a nose. What they do have are 2 scent pits. You know, if I grab my hand like this, you notice my fist gets wider as I pull tighter? That's because what's happening is the width of it's changing and it changes the shape of my hand. Squid have 2 scent pits that are located behind the eyes. But for them to open, they need to be able to grab something and tightly embrace it for the head to get wider and them to open. So by the time they've grabbed the jig, those scent pits are they're closed until they've really grabbed a hold of it. Okay, so yeah, they can't smell downstream. They can't smell full stop until they grab that.
What makes good squid ground? Looking for ground.
Broken ground, squid with reef, or not so much reef, more weed, sand patches amongst it. So places where the identical thing is if you can find whiting ground, that's perfect for squid. But again, follow the food. If you know there's a place with a big congregation of bait fish that are about that size, you'll catch lots of squid there.
So if I'm fishing for whiting in about 30 metres, I should put a squid jig down.
Absolutely.
Big
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, where a lot of people do have some really deep whiting grounds.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong if you've got whiting baits out, chuck a squid jig out and just let it sit there up or pistol style. You know, it's not going to hurt you to have a rod just sitting there on the side of the boat. If a squid grabs it, put it on your sound, and there you know there's squid there, so you can come back and target them at another time.
Would that go down 30 metres in a light drift?
Absolutely, that will. Yeah, this won't. That won't. But there are some deep jigs on the wall there, which will get you to 30 metres.
Can you weight a jig? Is that
You can, but don't weight the jig. The idea is, you've seen Egi snaps before, or the small snaps. Attach a snap to the front of the jig, and then attach a small sinker to the front of that. Okay, if you let it sink against the weight of the line, then the weight that's attached to the clip doesn't affect the way your jig sits. If you attach it to the jig itself, it will change the way your jig sinks. With tension, because the tension's on the clip. Yeah, so just attach your sinker to the clip, and it'll still sink like a normal squid jig.
You know when you get really aggressive with it,
Yep.
they still only hit it on the drop.
On the drop, yeah. The aggressive action is just making it look like food. Okay, now squid won't chase it, they'll wait for it to stop. Then they get all narrow, I can't do it, I'm too fat, but they'll come all in narrow and they'll just bang and they'll come in and shoot and grab. Yeah.
And that's a forward motion rather than their backward motion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, a lot of the time if they are going to not chase down food, but if the food moves really quick, they'll do a U-turn backwards, they'll use the jet to get themselves to a position, turn around and then attack the jig. Yeah, because it's easier to pump water than it is to get them fins working and try and catch up with it in a forward motion.
What's the best way to treat them when you catch them to eat them?
Kill them straight away.
Really?
Yeah,
And then on ice.
yeah, but don't put them on ice or in a slurry until they're dead. Because squid can live in all different temperatures, and if you put them into a slurry or on ice, they'll work really hard to stay alive, which means releasing a lot of enzymes into their body, which causes really rubbery taste or rubbery texture. So I'm not a squid, and I don't have a live squid. I can't show you exactly where to do it, but do yourself a favour. There's a million clips on YouTube that'll show you where to spike, and if you do it correctly, it'll just go clear. So they've got 3 parts of the brain you need to kill. So each part of the brain controls one of the 3 hearts. So you knock out each part of the brain, it stops pumping the liquids through to the body, and no more enzymes are released, and it stays more tender. So, but as soon as you've killed it, yeah, whack them on ice, but make sure they're dead first.
So they shouldn't go on live well then.
I'll put mine in a livey because I release most of mine. If I am going to keep some for the family, I just keep however many in the live well, and then I take a few at the end of the day. So, and then I kill them straight away.
So it's okay to leave them in the live oil, sort of.
Yeah, if they're keeping live, they're still fresh.
Yes,
Yeah.
10 plus in that water, right?
Yeah, keep keeping the water going, and they'll live for ages. Yeah.
So by sitting in the live oil, they're not going to release enzymes because they're stressed.
No, that's right. They're just sitting there. As far as they're concerned, they're just in a small ocean. So they're still getting the same oxygen through. They can still swim. They're not stressed. If you were to take them out and chuck them in a bucket, all of a sudden there's no more water, there's no more oxygen, and they're going to start to stress, and they'll start pumping all that copper crap out into their body, which will cause rigor mortis really quickly and make your meat really ordinary. So kill them straight away if you're going to eat them. If you're not going to eat them, then put them back. But if you're going to eat them, kill them. That's the kindest way to be to them, because otherwise everyone starts saying, oh, you've got to add kiwi fruit or lime juice or, oh, I don't know about you, but I don't add stuff to my meat, you know. If I get a bad bit of meat, I don't add orange juice to it to make it taste any better. So if you look after your fish from the start, once you kill it properly and do the right thing with it, it's always going to taste much better on the plate. But yeah, chill it as soon as you could.
So I don't know if you have, but have you talked about yourself, your thoughts on abshell? You know,
Sorry mate, I thought you said you were going to be listening through the whole show.
I know. So I told me Neil was.
Yeah, abalone shell. I do use it.
Sometimes I use it. I don't use good jigs. I don't know your thoughts.
I do use it. There's one with some on the back of it. A couple of reasons why I do use it is this one here, for example, a bit damaged. If I whack some of that abalone shell on the back of it, it's going to last longer. That's one reason. Second of all, that to me shows a weak spot or somewhere, a wound, or where the squid or where the bait's been attacked before. And to a squid that's an opportunistic feeder that wants to attack this fish to kill it, is going to attack the weakest point of that bait. Now, generally it's here at the head, but if I make a weak point towards the back, it's here, closer to the sharp, shiny parts, which makes for more frequent hookups. It also gives a point of difference on that body, because that's brown and then I've got green spots on it. That becomes a target, so they can actually zone in on something to attack it rather than trying to go for the head. So yeah, two reasons. I don't use it on everything, but I do have some jigs that have it on it, because I think it does increase the hookup rate when the squid are looking for something different about the baits. And it comes in a million shapes and colours, but they all do the same thing. Just try and find a colour that's different, or a contrast colour to your actual jig. So I wouldn't use a brown and gold ab shell on that, because the squid wouldn't see it. So I've gone for a green, or you go for a pink or a purple, something different than the outside colour of the jig. Yeah, mate?
No, I know it's not your brand or whatever, but what about the heated jacket squid jigs?
To be honest,
Is it a gimmick or?
I don't know. I haven't been able to talk to a squid and find out whether they can actually recognise temperature yet, but from what I understand, squid hunt on sight alone. A warm jacket?
Is that a heat spectrum part of the UV range of the?
No, it's not. No. And squids see just like we do with our eyes and recognise shapes and that sort of thing. They're not like the that creature in Predator that can see things with a temperature vision. It is all about vision. Now, maybe they know something I don't, but from my experience and from the stuff I've done at uni and from the stuff I've done with other companies around the world, there's nothing that indicates that a warm jacket will be better or worse for catching squid. So it might not have any effect on it, but it doesn't increase or decrease your chances of catching squid. And it's the same, I'm going to say this part too, the same goes for rattles. In earlier models of rattles, squid do have a percussive ear that can hear a frequency range from infrasound, so like 20 megahertz, through to about 700, 650 to 700. And the original rattle jigs that came out, their frequency range was something like 1200 to 1600, so the squid couldn't hear it. So the guy who designed that jig, I had a drink with a couple of years ago at Osaka, I said to him, what's the go with the rattles? And he said, well, squid can't hear the rattles, so it doesn't upset the squid. We catch the same amount of squid, but fishermen love rattles. And it worked a treat, you know. People didn't catch less squid. They might have caught more because they had a little bit more confidence in the jig that they were using, but it didn't affect the squid themselves. Now, there is another rattle jig that's just come out now that does fall in that frequency range. The frequency it makes is about 550 to 600 hertz. Again, no one's really done any research as to whether that's going to be better or worse. It will definitely have a reaction. The squid will definitely respond to it. Whether that's a positive or a negative, I don't know. I haven't done the research to find out. But it falls into that range, so the squid will hear it. Now, the bait that they eat doesn't normally make any noise that they can hear, so they'll definitely hear it. Whether they'll like it or not, I can't say inconclusively that it'll be a good thing or a bad thing. So yeah, they can hear some stuff and not a lot, but they can't see